What if your parents are bad? This is a question that we didn't really go into much depth answering, but now is definitely the time. What if you, as a child of your parents, consider that your parents are bad parents? Do their rights change? Can we treat them differently? The answer, in the super vast majority of cases, is no. That's why I said in the beginning of this course, if you remember, that everything I say in this course applies to 99.9% of all the parents in the entire world, whether that be Muslim or non-Muslim, every single parent. And what we all need to realize is that Birrul Walidain is an act of worship. We fulfill the rights of our parents because Allah has told us to fulfill the rights, not because they fulfill ours so we fulfill theirs. The relationship we have with our parents isn't a conditional relationship. We have to do it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us to do it. And we also need to realize and be 100% convinced that life is a test. Everything that happens to us in life is a test. Everything that Allah has given us, everything that Allah has taken away from us, everything is a test. The test is to see how we as individuals will respond to the hand that we've been dealt. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. He's the one who created death and life in order to test which one of you is best in deeds. In another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, لَتُبْلَوُنَّ. You believers will definitely be tested. Allah has made it definite for every single believer. And in another verse He says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. We will definitely, unquestionably test you with fear, hunger, loss of property, loss of life, loss of crops, wealth, and give good news to those who are patient. As you can see, the tests of life are something that none of us can avoid. And as you will probably imagine, just like you can't steal food if you're hungry, for example, or smoke cigarettes if you're stressed, or miss prayers because you're busy, similarly, you cannot dishonor your parents just because they're bad to you. This is the boundary set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes your parents might swear at you. Sometimes they might hit you, let's be honest. Sometimes they might neglect you. Sometimes they might be too demanding. They might say to you, you're upstairs, they're downstairs, they say, hey, come get the remote control. And you come all the way downstairs, you leave whatever you were doing, and you find the remote control for the TV is literally an arm's length away from them. None of that is a valid reason for you to abandon the rights of your parents. Difficult parents is just one of the many tests of life. And as we've said time and time again throughout this program and in other programs that we've done, the greater the test, the greater the reward. In the very first lesson, we mentioned a very powerful verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَفِي ذَلِكَ فَلْيَتَنَافَسِ الْمُتَنَافِسُونَ. So for this, let the competition begin for those who compete. This dunya, this land that we're in, is the land of competition. Therefore, we must compete because no competition is easy, and we must strive to fulfill the rights of our parents, and ultimately our reward is eternity in Jannah. And there's no greater reward than that. Okay, so that's the first point. The second point is to realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said in the Quran, and this is just one of a plethora of verses where Allah has delivered the same kind of concept, where He says, وَكُلُّهُمْ آتِيهِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَرْدًا. Every single person will return to Him on the Day of Judgment alone. Alone. Every single one of us is going to be resurrected alone. Every single one of us is going to be judged alone. All that matters on that day is our actions. So therefore, we cannot allow other people's actions to dictate whether or not our actions are in line with what Allah wants us to do. Do you get the point? Many people, I speak to many people who are bad to their parents. They trick themselves into thinking that just because my parents are bad to me, now I can be bad back to them. But the reality is, Birrul Walidain is a necessity regardless of how bad your parents are. And when you're raised on the Day of Judgment alone, and Allah holds you to account for these actions that you did, you're not going to have anything to say. Subhanallah. And to really just drill the point home, what better than a story from the Quran itself to emphasize this point? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala captures a story in the Quran of Ibrahim alayhi salam with his father. Listen to these verses. Wallahi, it's profound. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذْ قَالَ لِأَبِيهِ يَا أَبَتِ لِمَ تَعْبُدُ مَا لَا يَسْمَعُ وَلَا يُبْصِرُ. Remember when Ibrahim, he said to his father, oh my dear beloved father, Ya Abati, look at this soft word. Oh my dear beloved father, why do you worship what can neither hear or see, nor benefit you at all? Then Allah says in the next verse, Ya Abati, He's capturing what Ibrahim says. He says it again. Oh my beloved dear father, I have some knowledge which you don't have, so follow me and I will guide you to the straight path. And again, Ya abati, la ta'budi shaitan. Oh my dear beloved father, don't worship the shaitan. Surely the shaitan is ever rebellious against the most compassionate. And again, Ya abati, oh my dear beloved father, look at this gentleness. I truly fear that you will be touched by a torment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and become shaitan's companion in hell. Look at what his dad says. Wallahi, really just imagine. قال أراغب أنت عن آلهتي يا إبراهيم. Ibrahim's father, he threatened him. He said, how dare you reject my idols, Ibrahim? If you don't stop it right now, I'm going to stone you to death. This was his response to Ibrahim. I'm going to stone you to death. So be gone, get away from me. I don't want to see you for a very long time. This is what Ibrahim's father said to Ibrahim. And so how did Ibrahim respond? Did he say, oh, how dare you say that to me? I'm a prophet of Allah. Or became harsh and he started to get arrogant. No, he didn't do any of that. What did he say? قال سلام عليك سأستغفر لك ربي إنه كان بي حفيا. Ibrahim, he responded, Salamun alayk, peace be upon you. I'm going to continue praying for your forgiveness, for he has truly been gracious to me. Subhanallah. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he remained gentle, even though he was literally given a death threat by his own father, that I'm going to stone you to death. So if that's the case with Ibrahim, how about me and you with our parents when they ask us to do something which displeases us, or they maybe shout at us or insult us a couple of times? That's nothing compared to being given a death threat by Ibrahim alayhi salam. And if you think about it, Ibrahim's father, what did he do? He actually threw Ibrahim into a fire at the end of the day. So when you see these stories in the Quran, they are there for a reason. The reason why they're there is because Allah is telling us how to be in our lives through the stories of the prophets. They are our role models and we must follow in their footsteps. So if our parents are bad, does that mean their rights drop? No, absolutely not.